I still remember the exact moment my stomach dropped, that slow, sinking feeling like missing a step in the dark. We had just pulled into our driveway in Columbus, Ohio, after 10 days in Florida. Sunburned, relaxed, a little broke, but happy. My wife, Jenna, was humming something off the radio as she dug through her purse for the house keys. Everything felt normal until it didn't. The front door was unlocked. Now, I'm not a paranoid guy, but I know I locked that door. I always do. It's one of those habits you don't even think about anymore, like brushing your teeth or checking your phone first thing in the morning. I glanced at Jenna, and she gave me that same look. Brows tight, lips pressed thin. "Did you ask someone to check on the house?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. "No, did you?" That was enough to make my chest tighten. I pushed the door open carefully, half expecting to find the place ransacked. But what we walked into was somehow stranger. It smelled like lavender. Not our lavender. We didn't have lavender anything. Our house usually smelled like coffee, old books, and whatever candle Jenna forgot to blow out. But this was strong, fresh, deliberate. And then I saw it. A pair of floral slippers by the couch. I froze. Jenna didn't say a word, but I could feel her tense up beside me. We both knew those slippers. Hell, I'd recognize them anywhere. They belonged to her mother. Before either of us could process it, we heard movement in the kitchen. A drawer opening. The clink of dishes. And then she walked out like she owned the place. "Oh, you're home early," she said, smiling like this was the most natural thing in the world. I swear, my brain just stopped. Her mother, Darlene, stood there in our kitchen, wearing an apron I had never seen before, holding a wooden spoon like she was hosting a cooking show. Jenna blinked. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Darlene waved the spoon like that answered everything. "Well, I let myself in, of course. You said you'd be gone, and I thought, why not make myself useful?" Useful. That word echoed in my head like a bad joke. Because right then, looking past her into the kitchen, I realized something else. Things had been moved. Not just little things. Everything. The coffee maker was on the opposite counter. Our fridge had magnets I'd never seen before. There were curtains over the window that definitely hadn't been there when we left. This wasn't someone checking in. This looked like someone settling in. And deep down, before anyone said it out loud, I already knew. This was just the beginning. If there's one thing I've learned about my mother-in-law, it's that she never does anything halfway. Darlene didn't just drop by or help out. No, she established presence. And standing there in my own kitchen, watching her stir something in a pot I didn't even recognize, I realized we had crossed into completely new territory. Jenna tried to keep her voice steady. "Mom, you didn't tell us you were coming." Darlene gave a soft chuckle, like Jenna had just said something adorable and naive. "Well, sweetheart, you've both been so busy lately. I didn't want to burden you with details." Burden us? I leaned against the doorway, folding my arms, trying to keep my tone neutral. "How did you even get in?" "Oh, that old spare key you gave me years ago," she said casually, not even looking up. "Came in handy." I shot Jenna a look. She avoided my eyes. "That key. We had forgotten about that key." Darlene turned off the stove and started setting plates on the table. Our table, except now it had a lace runner on it. A lace runner. I hadn't seen one of those since my grandma passed away. "I made pot roast," she announced proudly. "Thought you'd be tired after traveling." Now, here's the thing. I like pot roast. I really do. But not like this. Not when it feels like a Trojan horse sitting in the middle of my dining room. We sat down, because what else were we supposed to do? The whole situation had this strange gravity to it, like we were already caught in something bigger than a simple misunderstanding. Halfway through dinner, I noticed more changes. The pictures on the wall, rearranged. Some of ours were gone, replaced with old family photos of Jenna as a kid. The couch had new pillows. Floral, of course. Even the TV remote wasn't where it belonged. "Mom," Jenna said carefully, putting her fork down. "How long are you planning to stay?" Darlene didn't answer right away. She took a slow sip of her iced tea, like she had all the time in the world. "Well," she said finally, "that depends." "Depends. On what?" I felt my jaw tighten. "Depends on what, exactly?" She smiled at me then. Not rude, not aggressive, just certain. "On how much you two need me." Silence fell over the table like a heavy blanket. I looked at Jenna again, hoping she'd push back, say something, draw a line. But she just stared at her plate, her shoulders slightly hunched. like she'd been transported back to being 16 again. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about a surprise visit. This was about control. And Darlene had just made her move. That night, I barely slept. Not because of jet lag. We were only one time zone over, but because every creak in the house felt different, wrong. Like the walls themselves were adjusting to a new reality I hadn't agreed to. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps. Soft, slow, deliberate. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, listening. Jenna was asleep beside me, her breathing steady, like none of this had cracked through her the way it had me. For a second, I thought maybe I was imagining it, just my mind running wild after a long day. Then I heard the cabinet in the hallway open. I sat up. Our hallway cabinet. The one with old board games, tools, and random junk we never sorted through. There was no reason anyone should be in there at 2 in the morning. I slipped out of bed quietly and stepped into the hallway. The light was on, and there she was. Darlene stood barefoot on the hardwood floor, holding a stack of our photo albums like she'd just pulled them from a time capsule. She didn't even flinch when she saw me. "Oh," she said softly, almost pleasantly. "Did I wake you?" I blinked, trying to process the scene. "What are you doing?" She looked down at the albums, running her fingers over the edges. "Just taking a little walk down memory lane." "At 2 in the morning?" She smiled faintly. "That's when the house is quiet enough to think." Something about that answer didn't sit right with me. Actually, nothing about any of this sat right with me. I stepped closer. "Those are our things." "Our things," she repeated, like she was tasting the words. Then she looked up at me. "You married into this family. That makes them mine too, in a way." That, in a way, hit harder than it should have. I exhaled slowly, trying not to snap. "Look, Darlene, we didn't expect you to be here. We didn't agree to this." She tilted her head slightly, studying me like I was the one being unreasonable. "Sometimes," she said, "people don't know what they need until it's right in front of them." I felt my patience slipping. And sometimes people need boundaries. That word, boundaries, hung in the air like a challenge. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she closed the album gently and held it out to me. "You're right," she said calmly. "Boundaries are important." Relief flickered in my chest. Too soon. She placed the album back into the cabinet, but not where it had been before. Just somewhere else. Rearranged, like everything else in the house. Then she turned to me with that same composed expression. "And we'll figure them out," she added, "as we settle into this new arrangement." Arrangement. There it was again, that quiet assumption, like a decision had already been made, and we were just catching up. She walked past me, back toward the guest room. Except it wasn't the guest room anymore. Not really. The door was wide open, and I could see inside. Closet half full. Suitcase unpacked. Framed photos on the nightstand. My chest tightened as I stood there in the hallway, staring into what used to be a temporary space. Because nothing about this felt temporary anymore. By morning, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. I stood in the kitchen holding my coffee mug, my mug, the chipped blue one Jenna had given me 3 Christmases ago, and even that felt like it was on borrowed time. The cabinet it used to sit in had been reorganized overnight. Not messy, not chaotic, just different. Plates stacked by size instead of type. Glasses moved to a lower shelf. Spices alphabetized. Darlene's fingerprints were everywhere, even where you couldn't see them. Jenna walked in a few minutes later, tying her hair back, still half asleep. She stopped when she noticed me staring into the cabinet like it had personally betrayed me. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I let out a short laugh. "Yeah, sure. Just trying to find where we live now." She didn't smile. Instead, she leaned against the counter, arms crossed, like she was bracing herself. "She used to do this when I was a kid," she said. "Whenever things felt out of control, she'd rearrange everything." I turned to her. Out of control for who? Jenna didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. Before I could press further, we heard Darlene's voice from the living room. I made a list. Of course she did. We stepped out to find her sitting at the dining table, glasses perched low on her nose, a yellow legal pad in front of her. She looked up, smiling like a manager about to start a team meeting. "Good morning," she said brightly. I took the liberty of organizing a few things. "A few," I muttered under my breath. She tapped the paper. "Just some improvements. Nothing drastic." I should have known that meant the exact opposite. She started reading. "First, groceries. I've adjusted your shopping habits. Too much processed food. We'll fix that." I opened my mouth, but she kept going. Second, the guest room. I've converted it into a more permanent living space. My jaw tightened. Third, finances. I noticed some inefficiencies. We'll sit down later and go over those together. That one hit like a slap. I stepped forward. No, we won't. Darlene paused mid-sentence and looked up at me. There it was again, that calm, unshaken expression. I appreciate your enthusiasm, I said, keeping my voice steady. But this is our house. You don't get to come in and rewrite how we live. Jenna shifted beside me, nervous, but she didn't stop me. Darlene folded her hands neatly over the paper. I'm not rewriting anything, she said softly. I'm improving what's already here. That's not your call. Silence stretched between us. Then she leaned back in her chair, studying me with a look that felt calculated. You're worried, she said. I frowned. About what? That you're losing control. I let out a sharp breath. No, I'm setting boundaries. She gave a small, almost sympathetic smile. Same thing, she said. And in that moment, I realized something that made my stomach turn. This wasn't going to be a simple conversation. This was going to be a battle. I didn't go to work that day. I called in, mumbled something about a family situation, and hung up before my boss could ask questions I didn't feel like answering. Because how do you even explain this? Hey, my mother-in-law moved into my house without permission and is now restructuring my life like it's a failing startup. Yeah, didn't think that would land well. Jenna stayed home too. We sat in the living room that morning, side by side on a couch that now had entirely too many floral pillows, neither of us saying much at first. The silence between us wasn't comfortable. It was heavy, loaded with things we both knew needed to be said. Finally, I broke it. We can't let this keep going, I said, staring straight ahead. Jenna nodded slowly, but she didn't look at me. I know. Do you? I turned to her. Because right now, it feels like she's the one making decisions in this house. That hit. I saw it in the way her shoulders tightened. She's always been like this, Jenna said quietly. When my dad left, she just took over everything. There was no space to argue. I softened a little, but not enough to let it go. You're not 16 anymore, Jen. I know that, she snapped, then immediately exhaled, like she regretted the sharpness. I didn't expect her to do something like this. Neither did I, but here we were. Before we could say more, Darlene walked in carrying a basket of laundry. Our laundry. She smiled like nothing was wrong. I thought I'd help out. You two have enough on your plates. That phrase again. Enough on your plates. I stood up. We need to talk. She set the basket down calmly. Of course we do. Jenna stayed seated, but I could feel her attention locked onto every word. I took a breath. You can't stay here. Not like this. Not without asking. Not without boundaries. Darlene didn't react right away. She just folded a towel with careful precision, smoothing out every edge like the conversation wasn't urgent. I'm your family, she said finally. Family doesn't need permission. I shook my head. That's not how it works. Not here. She looked up at me then, really looked, like she was measuring something. And what exactly are you afraid of? She asked. I blinked. Excuse me? If I'm such a problem, she continued, what is it you think I'm going to take from you? The question caught me off guard, because the answer wasn't simple. It's not about taking, I said slowly. It's about replacing. Jenna looked up at that. Darlene's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened. Replacing what? She asked. I swallowed. Us. Our routines. Our decisions. Our home. The word home lingered. For the first time since we got back, the room felt still in a different way, not tense, but focused, like we had finally named a real problem. Darlene folded the last towel and placed it neatly on the pile. I see, she said, but the way she said it didn't sound like agreement. It sounded like strategy. That afternoon, things shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, no shouting, no slammed doors. Just a quiet change in the air, like the moment before a storm finally breaks. Darlene disappeared into the guest room, her room now, and stayed there for a couple of hours. No clinking dishes, no rearranging furniture, no lists, just silence. And somehow, that silence was worse. Jenna and I sat at the kitchen table, untouched coffee growing cold between us. Neither of us dared to say it out loud, but we were both thinking the same thing. What is she planning? I should have said something sooner, Jenna finally whispered, staring at the table. I shook my head. This isn't on you. She's my mother, she said, her voice tightening. It is on me. I leaned forward. It's on both of us, which means we deal with it together. That got her to look at me. Really look. For the first time since we walked into that lavender-scented house, I saw something shift in her too. Not fear, not hesitation, resolve. Before either of us could say more, the guest room door opened. Darlene stepped out. But something about her was different. She wasn't holding a list. She wasn't smiling. Her posture was straighter, more formal, like she had just come to a decision she was ready to announce. "Can we sit down?" she asked. We already were. Still, something in her tone made it feel like a meeting had officially begun. She took the chair across from us and folded her hands neatly on the table. "I've been thinking," she said. "I resisted the urge to say that makes one of us uneasy. I may have approached this the wrong way." Jenna blinked. I felt my guard hesitate, just for a second. Darlene continued. "I didn't mean to make you feel like this wasn't your home." I crossed my arms. "That's exactly what happened." She nodded once, accepting it. "Then I need to correct that." A pause. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled something out. A key. She slid it across the table toward us. "That was a mistake," she said, keeping this without asking. I stared at it. The same spare key that started all of this. Jenna slowly picked it up, turning it over in her fingers like it weighed more than it should. "Does this mean?" she began. Darlene inhaled quietly. "It means," she said, choosing her words carefully, "that I'm willing to do this your way." Hope flickered again, but I didn't trust it. "Not yet." "Willing," I repeated. "So you're still planning to stay?" There it was. The real question. Darlene didn't look away this time. "Yes," she said. The word landed heavy. "But," she added quickly, "only if we agree on how." I glanced at Jenna. This was it, the line in the sand. Not a surrender, a negotiation. And for the first time since this whole thing started, it felt like we might actually have a say in what happens next. Or at least, the illusion of one. We sat there for a long moment, the three of us, with that single key lying between us like it carried the weight of the entire situation. Negotiation. That's what this had become. Not a misunderstanding. Not a temporary inconvenience. A full-on negotiation about who gets to define what home means. Jenna was the first to speak. "If you stay," she said slowly, her voice steady but firm, "things have to change." Darlene nodded once, almost respectfully. "I agree." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. No more rearranging. No decisions about our finances. No going through our things. And no one announced anything. Each word felt like I was hammering a stake into the ground. Darlene listened without interrupting. Then she looked at Jenna. "And you?" Jenna swallowed, then straightened her back. "No guilt. No pressure. You don't get to make me feel like I owe you this." That one landed differently. Darlene's expression softened. Not dramatically, but enough to show it hit something real. "I never meant to," she began. "But you did." Jenna cut in, not raising her voice, just holding the line. Silence followed. A different kind this time. Not tense. Not fragile. Clear. Darlene exhaled slowly and nodded again. "All right." Just like that. No argument. No pushback. And somehow, that made me more uneasy than anything else she'd done. "All right." I repeated. "Yes," she said simply. "Your house. Your rules." I studied her face, searching for the angle, the hidden move, the next step in whatever game she'd been playing since we got back. But for the first time, I didn't see one. What I saw instead was something quieter. Not defeat. Not control. Something closer to acceptance. "I'll stay," she added, "for a little while. We'll see how it goes." A trial period. I could work with that. Jenna nodded slowly. "Okay." And just like that, the terms were set. Not perfect. Not comfortable. But defined. Over the next few days, things didn't magically fix themselves, but they shifted. Darlene stopped moving things. The lavender scent faded. The house started to feel like ours again, mostly. But something had changed permanently. Not just in the space, but in us. We had drawn a line, and she had stepped back. Not all the way, but enough. And sometimes, enough is what keeps a family from breaking.